less of my room. Okay, so you've got P1. This is P1 here. P1 represents part 1. P2 is the flap. This represents part 2. Then P3 is the back, which has the pocket on the inside. Now if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll see, you'll be able to see how the 6x10 design goes together. With this one, I've changed the finish. So instead of laying P1 and P2 on top of P3, part 3, they slide in the top seam. So I've left the top seam open until you slide the flat part in, and then it stitches it up. And the same with the bottom, this part here. So the seam's on the outside. I did make a video of making P1, and I am halfway through making P2. So right now I'm literally just putting the satin stitch on the fabric. So no, the satin stitch, you've got to forgive me, I'm not very well today. I've got a bit of a cold. So I'm partway making the flap for this design. You lay your vinyl down. No, you stitch out your flap onto the stabilizer. So that's your outline, like normal, like my other designs. Then you lay your vinyl on top, and then you stitch out the fabric piece, which is this, and it holds it down. And then you trim off the remaining excess from your fabric, and then you do the satin stitch. So right now I'm doing the satin stitch on the fabric. So we're just going to pretend that you know how to do P1 and you are doing P2 right now. But if you get stuck, look at the previous videos, because it will show you how to do P1 and part of P2. The only difference is this has got fabric on the flap. I hope I'm not confusing you. I'm really, really sorry if I am. Okay, so let's go back down and finish off this, what I'm doing right now. So I'm using black matte vinyl, and I have got some zebra print vinyl, because the back of my purse I'm going to use zebra print vinyl again. So I'm just using a bit of vinyl on top as well, because you can use fabric or you can use vinyl, it's up to you. So all it's going to do now is do the satin stitch right the way around the edge. And while that's going, I'll just talk you through this one. So this is P1, and I've used a gloss vinyl, which is a leatherette. Actually, it's a gloss leatherette finish, and I am lining it with grey Stone Effect wall felt. So all it's going to do on here is do a satin stitch around the outside, and then it's going to run a bean stitch on the inside. So this design is for not for fabric. This is a vinyl or leatherette or marine vinyl design. So it's going to have a raw edge. It's going to have a raw edge around the outline of the purse. But on the inside of the purse, you've got the option of having a satin stitched seams on the inside. You can see that. Let me turn my light on. You can see it a little bit better. So there. And the seam is on the inside and the outside of the bag. I think it gives a better finish. There's nothing wrong with the other bags, but this has just evolved. And I've also added a step to give you boxed corners if you wish to do them on your embroidery machine. Some people are finding it's easier doing it on their sewing machine, and that is fine, but because I say that these bags can be done totally in the hoop, I add everything that you can you use to make this bag, this clutch, in the hoop. So I'm not telling any fibs, and I'm going to show you how to make everything. So this is just going to carry on stitching out the satin stitch now. After this has been done, then we're going to add the lining to the clutch. Almost finished, and then it'll do a beam stitch on the inside of the fabric flap. just going to add the lining to the back of the hoop. So I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, turn it over. As you can see, I used a white bobbin, but it's okay because you're not going to see it. And then I'm going to place my felt over the back. If you don't have any spray, use some tape, some builder's tape, paint and decorator's tape or something like that. Just hold it in place so it doesn't move, and just make sure that everything is covered, which it is. And that is P2 complete. So we remove this from the hoop, take it out of the hoop. Try and save as much of the your stabilizer as possible. These bits that are left over, perfect for your 4x4 hoop. So I always collect my bits up there and put them up the top. You should be able to get more than one of the flaps in your 6x10 hoop if you're careful. So we're going to trim this up, cut nice and close. There was one extra step on this design which I don't use myself, which is why I've taken it off. But it will give you a cam snap or clasp, or it'll give you a guide. It will stitch out a guide. So if you want to have the guide, stitch out step 6, and then step 7 you don't really need, because it's just to stop the needle from collaborating in the middle of the hoop. Right, so that is P2 done. So I have P1 somewhere, don't know where, but it is somewhere. And then I have, there's P1. Right, so I've got P1 here, and then I've got P2 here, and now I'm going to do P3. P3 is the back of the bag, which also has the pockets. So you need to do the underside of the hoop first. Okay, so I'm going to put my stabilizer in my hoop and show you what's next. Okay, let's stitch out P3. My phone's about to bleep. In a minute. So all it's doing right now is giving you just a placement for where the design is going to be on your stabiliser, because I don't hoop anything, I always float. It saves you using too much material. You don't need to use too much material. You save as much money as you possibly can. Okay, so this is our placement guide. And what I need to do is I need to remove the hoop from the machine and add the lining, which is the grey, the dark grey felt. So I'm going to keep it here so that you can see what I'm doing. And add. If you want to know who that is, that's Amanda. She's just messaged me. She'll be mortified that I've mentioned her name. Okay, so that goes on the back of the hoop, and now you're going to stitch out the pocket guide. So now that the pocket guide has been stitched, what we need to do is we need to add our pocket fabric, which I have conveniently pre-cut. Nice straight edge. I cut that with my craft knife, and we are going to take this in place. So I add a piece in the middle, and then I'm going to add 2 pieces on either side. Place the hoop carefully back onto the machine. Make sure that you can feel that it's not rippled underneath, and stitch it down. Doesn't sound like it's stitching, so let's move it back. Rethread. And restart again. That's better. Remove from the hoop once more. Remove the hoop from the machine once more, and remove the tape that's holding it all in place, and trim off the excess from your lining. Your lining, not the backing. And then you've got an option of, if you've used fabric, there's a satin stitch next. So let's carefully place this back on the hoop, and we will stitch out the satin. I think because it's satin stitch, I'm going to change the bobbin now to black. There we go. and I am going to put the machine on, and I'm going to go and make myself a cup of tea. Just make sure it stitches first. Nearly there. And that is the satin stitch that goes around the pocket edge. I'll show you. There we go. That's the pocket. So now we're going to add our vinyl onto the top of this, and this is going to be the back of the bag. So if you've got a printed printed vinyl with, say, a pattern on it, make sure that the pattern is up the right way. So this is going to be the top of the bag, so make sure that your, say it's flowers, you've got the flowers here and the stems this way, or trees, or whatever you're going to be. I don't know if I've got a pattern anywhere. No, I can't even show you. So this is going to be the top of that's the inside of the pocket in there. Yeah, so make sure that is the right way. So I'll show you. It needs to go that way. So your vinyl needs to be the right way up. If you've got printed vinyl, that is, with a pattern. Mine is a zebra print, so it doesn't really matter which way it goes up that way or that way. And I've pre-cut it, and it should fit almost exactly. So I'm going to put a bit of spray on it so it doesn't move. And then place it over exactly. If anything, I've cut this a little bit too short, but it won't matter. So that's my vinyl, and it's going to do the seam parts first. And it's going to come over to this side and do this seam. This is what's different in this design. This is a different finish, and I'll show you in a minute why. Okay, so it's going to do the bottom of the bag first. Right, remember what I said about this. This is going to be the top. This is where your pocket goes in that way. So this is the bottom. So on the bottom, you need to make sure that this is going on the right way. So this little bit here slides in underneath here, and underneath here you will see that is the stitch line where the machine is going to stitch down. So make sure that this stitch line here sits over or just in a little bit more than what it's can't think of my words, so you just need to make sure that it sits inside. Okay, so a little bit of to-ing and fro-ing, but it's better to be in too much than not enough. And make sure that the vinyl is up, facing upwards, so your felt is facing downwards, and this will put the seam on the outside, like that. That's the piece that we're doing right now, like that. That's the piece, that piece there. We're doing this piece here. We're adding that piece to the bag. Yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing. And then stitch them down. Then you need to do the same with the top flap. So the flap goes over the bag and it folds over that way. So we have the flap this way here. So it actually looks like the 8x12 version of the bag right now, but instead you have used 3 different types of fabric, which is, I think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I came up with this idea in my sleep. I thought, I've done the Elizabeth wallet a little bit different, so I wonder if it will work with the 6x10. Because the 6x10, I'm not going to lie, it's a headache for me to work out how it all goes together, so that everybody can get it right. You just got to make sure that you push it in enough. Hopefully I pushed it in enough. I don't even know myself. We'll see in a minute. Feels like I have. I can feel it right there. So there's an extra step right here. Don't stitch it out, because when it finishes doing that step, it's going to go back into the middle. It could get caught, could rip on your fabric and tear everything up. So just ignore that last step. Right, I can see that obviously my vinyl is too long here, so I'm going to trim it up using my applique scissors right now. I'm going to try anyway. Let's try it that way so that you can still see. And that's bits trimmed off. This bit's okay, it's not too bad. I can always trim it up afterwards. And that is the inside of the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all off the hoop, and I'm going to save the bits of material, the stabiliser that I can. which is not really that much on this one. That's too small. You can always sew them together, I suppose. Yeah, I'm going to keep them because I can sew them together. They're alright for the 4x4 hoop. And then just get rid of all of the stabiliser that you can visually see. And again, you are going to need to trim off your lining. I'll do that now, actually, because then my scissors won't get caught. So I'm going to trim that off right now. Let's try that way as well. Got a bit more to hold on to this side. And then tear away your stabiliser. Do it from that side. That's better. And then I'm going to trim these ends up. Oh, excuse me. And that is the bag complete, and it almost looks like the 8x12 bag when you do one hooping, but obviously you've got different materials. So all I need to do now is sew up the seams, and the seams go in that way. Some people prefer to sew the seams up on a sewing machine, which is fine by me, but like I said earlier on, I like providing everything that everybody needs to be able to finish the bag off in the hoop. It's not witchcraft, it's just very clever designing. So let's go on to the 4x4 hoop option, which is the edges. And get a bit of this that I've been saving. Where's my 4x4 hoop? Just add in the stabiliser to my 4x4 hoop. And I'm going to stitch out placement lines. Just trimmed off a little bit extra off of the inside of the bag, because then you can hardly see it at all. Right, so I've cut these little notches out. Sometimes I do cut the notches out, sometimes I don't, but I have found that it's pretty easy to sew up and make the boxed corners with them cut out and with them left in, so entirely up to you, your preference. Yeah, so lay the two seams on top of each other like that, so match up the corners, and then I'm doing this bag upside down. Lower your needle into, hold on, try it the other way. Yeah, try it that way. Lower your needle into the top of the bag, and then, sorry, my arm was in the way, and then make sure that the seam is sitting over the stitch line underneath, and it runs quite quickly, so watch your fingers, watch it burst. You'll do a couple of stitches and then it runs pretty quick. It goes back on itself. If you want to put a bit of tape on there, that's absolutely fine, you can do that. Now there's an option to either leave it like this or add a satin stitch. If you find that you've gone a little bit too far in, you can trim it off now and then add your satin stitch.
I didn't make a cup of tea, I made a cup of coffee instead. I'm finding I'm drinking lots of hot drinks at the moment because my throat is so sore. Go, just adjusted it a little bit. I know some people don't like doing this, but I do. So just rip it up off the stabilizer, and then that is one seam done. And then you do the same again for the other side. I'm going to trim that off a little bit better. A bit high, that one. Oh. There we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to sit that over, lower my needle in there. Make sure that it's sitting over the stitch line and sew it down again. Got a little bit of excess here, so I'm going to trim that off. This is why it stops, just in case. I go from this side, so I prefer to go from this side for some reason, don't know why. There we go. That's a bit better. That'll do, that'll do, that'll do. Carefully place your hoop back onto your machine. Make sure that it's still threaded, which it looks like it's about to come out. Lower your needle and stitch the satin stitch. there. I'm going to trim that off. Don't want it sticking out. If you want to finish it there, finish it there. If you don't and you want to add the box steps, stitch out the next part now. And the needles come out. So okay, now I need to remove this from here. Again, just get myself, okay, push it up. Right, so now we need to trim off all of the little tie off ends. Careful not to cut the knots off though, because you need them to keep your bag in one piece. Right, so put your hand into your bag. See my little finger there? See my finger? And all we need to do is make a nice triangle from the bag, and this is the stitch line that you're going to be stitching over. So place this stitch line over your stitch guide over here with the seam going downwards, so it's nice and flat on this side, and then place your corner and lower your needle down and then stitch. I'm holding it in place while it stitches. Quick as that. I'm going to take this off of here, and I'm going to do the same for the other corner. So put my finger in the little hole. Can you see my little finger? Squash the bag down, make a triangle, turn it up the other way, and that's going to be my stitch guide, which I'm going to sew over right now. So place that over my stitch guide, lower my needle, and then stitch it down. I'm holding it again. There's an extra step bit in place down here. Don't need it. And that is the corners done. See there? Trim off all of your tie ends. Tidy your bag up, make it look nice and presentable. I'm getting there. About the time I get myself some new scissors. Right, and then we turn the bag right way out. And then hope that everything has been caught. Everything looks good to me. Yep. Perfect. Just give all of the stitched seams a bit of a squeeze, just to give the bag a bit of shape. Quite like this one. And then the flap will go over there like that. And I am going to add a black buckle to this bag. See, seams are on the outside on this one, and I'm going to show you how to add the black buckle now. Hopefully that my machine doesn't stop, the camera doesn't conk out, so bear with. Okay, so on this design I am recommending using these buckles, which you've got a, and then you clip it in. They're like, I think you get these from on satchel bags and stuff. But yeah, I think they look quite classy, and I got them in black and gold, and the gold. So I think I'm going to use the black one on this one today. Yep. If you wanted to, you could of course use this. That would still look nice, but you just need to be aware of that placement there when it's stitched out, that it's not shown. You need to make sure that you get it covered. You cover it up. Right, so we're going to use one of these today, and it comes with that, and it also comes with that. Right, so this has got like little teeth inside, and what happens is the fabric goes in and the teeth close onto the fabric, and then it won't come out. So you have got the placement circle, but I didn't stitch it out. I can basically do this by my eye. I line up these corners with the bend of the satin stitch, and I pinch it together like that, and then it needs a little bit of a bang, so I bang into the teeth using my little hammer. Because it's the teeth that I want to go into the fabric. A bit more, being a little bit too cautious. Try it this way. That's it, that's perfect. Right, so because there's no placement on this, because I haven't stipulated that you have to use these, so I haven't put placements in that, so everybody has to use what I have. So if you're using these ones, follow one of my other bag tutorials, like the Chloe Clutch uses these ones, but this is the buckle. So what I do is I put this part here onto this part here, and then push it down, so I know exactly where I want it to go, like that, very gently, and it will give me 2 marks. See them marks there? One there and one there. Then I need to get my craft knife, which is right here, and there's one there. Where is it? Lost it. One there and one there. Let's do it again. That's it, I've got it. And then I just put a little slice in there and in there. Take it off and then put these 2 little teeth in the bag there, like so. So you can see them right there. And then this goes on the back, and then them little teeth, the prongs, whatever they're called, get pushed over the metal. Now if you want this to be covered, so if you're going to use your phone or anything, it'll be a better idea to get a piece of scrap fabric or lining or something. Let me see if I can find something. Oh, I've just thrown all my little bits of scrap away. That bit will do. So a piece like that. Square it up. Mind your fingers. And then just use some adhesive and place that over the back of your bag, like that. When it's stuck down, you won't be able to see what's underneath. And then that is your bag with a buckle complete. There you are. Hope you've enjoyed watching my my tutorial. You've wasted nearly an hour watching me, so hopefully subscribe to this YouTube channel, because whenever I upload another design you'll be notified, so you can keep up to date with what I'm doing and what I'm making. Have a fabulous day everybody, and I will be back soon with another tutorial. Let me put that up there like that. See these? I got these from my daughter's wedding. Little seed bombs, so I'm going to put them in the garden. Anyway, toodaloo for now. Bye bye.